Olga, I first of all thank you. I really do appreciate you joining me for this. I was so fascinated with the UBS Unique idea, and I thought what a wonderful initiative that I didn't know existed, and that I thought, well, fantastic. Let's talk to somebody who's really behind a very particular, not just female initiative, but commercial idea, because I think that's one of the many ways in which we can, champion some of the things that we need to tackle.
When we started all of our efforts around what in the end led to a change program and now is leading to a business priority, the motivation behind this is as much a commercial one as much as it is a societal one.
Yes.
And probably fair to say that for me, obviously, yes, being an innovation expert, the commercial one is very important, but personally, I am deeply motivated by the societal opportunity that comes from all of this.
I'd like to start with some personal questions before we talk about the initiative. And I wanted to ask you, as a leader, as a female leader in the finance industry in particular, where we see big gender pay gaps and not so many female leaders, did you encounter challenges along the way? How do you see your role as a female leader in finance?
Look, I think I encountered the same challenges as anybody else who is trying to inspire change, who is acting out of a conviction to make the world and obviously the company one works at a better place. Quite frankly, for the majority of my career, it never occurred to me that being a woman could be a hindrance. Until I put on the gender glasses, and starting to look at a whole bank or at a whole wealth management practice with the gender glasses, it never occurred to me. So challenges were the ones, how do you convince people to believe in what you believe? How do you, sustain? How do you get a whole initiative off the ground? Where do you find the funding from? Where do you find the supporters from? But the gender topic for me, applied to myself, as ironic as it sounds, never was the paramount thing. I always acted out of a conviction, and that's what I'm also doing now. I believe that managing one's money is for women as important as the right to vote. I do believe it is not only for the women, it's actually for any young person or old person. Money plays a fundamental role to give our dreams wings. Mm-hmm. And so that is what sort of gives me the drive to do what I'm doing. And I happen to be privileged enough to be in an organization that embraces this as an opportunity and provides the necessary backing, resources, and support. That said, was it always easy to get here? No, of course it wasn't. But then if you are trying to drive large-scale digital innovation, you probably will encounter the same challenges.
I was really surprised about was the extent to which so many women in industry, they're very ambitious, but they don't feel like they're going to really occupy the senior leadership roles. They don't see themselves as CEOs of the future. They are hungry for success and they believe in their own ability, but maybe not in the opportunities that they're going to get. And do you see female colleagues or perhaps other females that you know in business thinking, I need more help with this, and the men around them just, what's the problem?
Look, I think in the three organizations that I work at, not only particularly UBS, I always had the privilege to see women to go for what they wanted to go for. And not everybody wants to be a CEO. Okay, it might not be the wish because it comes also with a certain downside, right?
True.
People who wanted to innovate, people who wanted to make a social difference, people who wanted to rise to the top. Do I observe now women having to rely on, I think we have to rely on a different support system. The men just get on with it and they will not ask that many questions whether they are fully capable, whether, they fit for this job, whether they are, the best position. They will just give it a go. And sometimes I wish for us to be a little bit, as women, to be a little bit more courageous and just say, let's just go and try this, without second guessing whether we are super qualified, whether we found all the money, whether we found all the backing, and just get on with that. I also think, being a former marketing professional, and this is what research shows, that our support network of each other as women is probably less advanced than it is among men. And I think that we can give each other more wings.
UBS Unique is an initiative that is catering to, shall we say, an underserved part of the marketplace. Perhaps you can explain a little bit more about the initiative, but also especially what inspired it in the first place.
Okay, so it's, I think, about 4 years ago, where as part of the business practice, we detected that whenever client relationships get reviewed, it gets discussed, and obviously we are a large wealth manager, there is little discussion around, what is the woman, what role does she play, do we even know her? And so on the back of that, what we did was to invite a number of clients to just come and exchange with us and say, the question we put forward to them was very simple. Say, come and exchange with us what is working for you with us as a wealth manager and what is working not, and give us your insights and your feedback, how we could serve you better. And so quite a few of them came, and we held a small roundtable to understand what the needs are. And this was a long time before there was so much research about what is working for women in the industry and what is not working, and as customers and all of that. And the feedback we got was quite striking. First and foremost, the women told us, well, yes, I am very much involved in managing the finances at home, but when I go to the bank, I rarely join my husband, for instance. Yes, I would love to, be involved more, but somehow I feel this doesn't fully speak to me. I believe I don't have the right level of knowledge. Actually, I think I would need to, have far more expertise to discuss with the person at the bank. And so with these sort of first insights, what we did was to say, okay, we need to embark on a journey of more research. So we surveyed our clients, we gathered a lot of data, and eventually it became very evident that a lot of the research studies that are here out in the market now, such as EY and Boston Consulting Group and all of this great data, is actually true. Women just feel, this is maybe not fully taking me seriously yet. They feel that they would wish for a more inclusive approach. They would wish to have a dialogue that is linked closer to the purpose of their money just than the financial products themselves. And hence, in many cases, they tend to, I would say, delegate the responsibility to their husband, or they find other ways how to gain the financial knowledge, be it from their peers, being from their colleagues, or be it from literature. And so we thought long and hard and said, well, what could be our response to this? Do we need a department that will serve women? Do we need specific products that will sort of be crafted around female specific needs? Do we need more marketing that will kind of promote the tools and knowledge of our industry to women? And in the end, the answer to all three of those was a strict no. It was a strict no because it would put half of the planet's population into an echo chamber, and we just felt that this can't be right. So our answer to this was to embark on a journey of change and to say, we're going to go and revisit each and every our business processes with the so-called gender glasses, or with the simple question in mind, does this, what we are doing here, also serve the female customers well? And the very pragmatic examples about this or of this are our business data. Do we know how many female customers we have? Do we know how they are progressing? Do we know what their affinities are? The customer satisfaction, do we know how happy they are? Do we know what advisor preferences they have? Our marketing department, are we inclusive enough in our communication approach? Simple things like our images, the people we display at panels, the people that we sort of display in the different appearances of the bank. We looked at what are our client advisors doing? Do they have the necessary emotional intelligence? Do they have any obstacles how they would speak to women? Are they aware that there might be certain differences? And we looked obviously at, is there a possibility for us to add value to women because they have specific needs when it comes to managing their money? We live longer. We are still facing a gender pay gap. Many of us don't invest in a, I would say, very, very stringent approach. And so we looked at, and that's what you see in this taking action research, how much does it make a difference to you and your money when you are a woman and a man? And what we found is that basically a 10% gender pay gap can result in a total wealth gap of 38% at the age of 65. And so now we are trying to, or trying very hard to create, you can't say products, but solutions and education that will tackle those particular differences where a woman really has very distinct needs, but not pinkwash the whole bank. Now, 18 months down the road, I feel very proud that these change efforts are moving into, I would say, the DNA of UBS Wealth Management, that there is sufficient support and acknowledgement across our organization that this is important. And so we are really at, I would say, a crossing path from this initial injection of energy towards embracing this as an organization. And that is something that I personally find it's wonderful, because now the majority of our standard processes really acknowledge women as a distinct or one of many business priorities.
In the research also referenced that perhaps women's own financial planning might mean that actually perhaps they're not helping themselves when it comes to narrowing that pay gap. Do you have any views as to what's been holding women back on that front?
I think many women are very well aware of the need. It's just finding out where to start. The industry's amount of information, it can feel very overwhelming, right? And many of us, or at least even me who works at a bank, don't wake up and say, today is the day I'm going to manage my money and sort out my finances. Usually we are motivated by some form of passion of what you want to do in life. And so I think it's not a top of the mind issue. And then when it takes so much time to find the right information, to figure out which bank is the best one for you, what bank do I even need, who is the advisor that I would trust, what is it even that I need to do to have a sound financial plan. I think one big component, and what I have observed is, especially in women that have all career, children, a relationship, time is of the essence. We don't have that much time to dig through amounts of data, and not everybody is a passionate economist that gets, really worked up about all the global statistics. So that's one. Time, accessibility, ease of use. Then there is a psychological trait which is very much linked to, I would say, the overestimation of what you actually need. It all seems so sophisticated. Many women come to us and say, you can't say overwhelmed, but I believe I need to be a financial expert before I can go to the bank, because otherwise I might look stupid. And the reality is that I think the simple things that one can and should do are not that difficult to do. You don't need to be a financial or economic expert. You just need to have the courage to ask the right questions. And that is actually what inspired us to write this workbook about financial confidence, to make rigorous simplification and say, actually in a 4 hours read, all the essence that there is about having a good conversation about your money. So the overestimation, the intrinsic overestimation that one would need to be an expert is probably a big obstacle. The third big obstacle, I think, is the fear of making mistakes, the fear of losing money. And interestingly, I think it is this similar between men and women, but women will go and validate again. They will check again. And in the end, they will try to, I would say, invest in a more restrictive way, or in property, or in, something that feels safer. Whereas many men, they kind of, like with the career, get on with it and try. And if it doesn't work, they try again, right? And I think that these are probably the 3 or 4 biggest reasons. Knowing where to start, time constraints, overestimation in terms of what is actually required, and fear of making a mistake.
We talk a lot about empathy as a huge trend. In 2018, particularly as we see more and more services become automated and driven by technology to a certain extent. And in many ways, the question might be, what do brands in any industry bring from a human side really to their consumers, and in your case, or in this subject, female consumers, how do you think emotional intelligence needs to be displayed, and is that very different for females? Do you have any examples of perhaps where you've tried to put that into practice?
Yeah, I think especially when it comes to wealth management, it is, despite all the digital efforts, still very much about people. Actually, it's predominantly about people. And I love to use this example of the robo-advisors, which are absolutely brilliant. But many of them, or actually I believe none of them, has been witnessing a larger financial crisis yet. So what do you do when all in a sudden there is no human to speak to and the markets go south, right?
Yeah.
I think it is for our industry absolutely vital that we have the right level of personal connection, basically. So what do we do is, well, we train, or we offer training to our client advisors and relationship managers. We do this first and utmost by exposing them to certain, I would say, psychological traits that have been researched, and what is it now in the case of women that they want, that they don't want. But then we also try to train a certain level of behaviors, because we are an 80% male client advisor workforce, right? So we outline the little things, such as when you speak to a couple, regularly ask who the decision maker is. Don't just assume that it will be the gentleman, because you might be surprised. And then we give them a safe haven environment to try things out. I think it's very important. So trainings where they actually, either actor-led, or there is a client panel of women that give feedback on how this was perceived.
Do you see a future where women will trust a financial advisor enough to open up about the difficulties that they need to overcome, and the role that wealth planning might play in helping them get through those obstacles?
I think that trust has to be earned, but it can be earned. I get asked this question a lot, so is it now that, the growth will come by hiring more female advisors, and do women only want to be served by female advisors? Actually, we have no confirmation and no statistics where women would say, I only prefer or would like to have a female advisor. They want a person that is competent, that will take into account the purpose of their money and where the woman wants to go, and a person that they feel is trustworthy and they can trust. Whether that is a man or a woman never plays a role. So I think this trust can be earned, but it can be earned, and it has to be earned by really understanding the motivation, understanding the person, understanding the person's life, the circumstances, and where they want to go in the future. And only then comes sort of all the financial considerations. Give you one example, if a classical financial advisor conversation starts with, so what risk profile are you? Then I think this is just maybe right for some, but maybe also off-putting for many. Whereas if you start, what is your situation? What does your husband do? You have also a mother that you need to take care of? What are your big objectives? And then build up around the person the tools that can help them to achieve it on a monetary side. I think that this is a far more inclusive dialogue.
You're making me smile, because I can't tell you how many times I've been asked that question. What's your risk profile? I mean, frankly, that depends on my mood at that moment. I'm interested in what you say about, the answer isn't just hiring more female staff. It's all about earned trust. You must have encountered, though, some obstacles in getting, this new initiative off the ground. Can you talk about some of the hurdles along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it took quite a while it took a greater part of 3 years until we could launch first the change program and now what we would call a segment effort where we say women are a recognized business priority in our bank. And there were numerous challenges and numerous, I would say, pilots that had to be tried. In the end, what got us there, I think is probably more interesting, was a very solid business case. There is a rock solid business case founded on customer feedback, on the respective business calculations, um, grounded with competitor research that we did to see what are others doing and where could UBS as a bank evolve, and that is what in the end led to the fact. So I will not shy away from I would say the honesty that this is a business imperative for UBS, for UBS Wealth Management. And well, that's proven in all the statistics, and that is what actually helped us. The fact that, with this business imperative, we also can achieve a lot of societal good and drive, hopefully, change in the industry where still a lot has to be done around customer experience. I think both of them go hand in hand. But coming at it from the societal dimension only, I am not sure if we would have gotten as far as today, as fast as we did.
It sounds to me like you've had a very busy 3 years and that the initiative is going well. What's your next number one goal or target to hit?
My next two goals are, one is to really train and equip each and every one of our client advisors. We progressed. I think we trained something like 30% of our workforce by end of 2017. There is still a lot more to be done because the organization is large, and I think it also needs an ongoing conscious effort. So I would love each and every one of my colleagues to really say, I feel well equipped. I don't have any hesitation, and I don't know how you call this. Sorry, just need to ask Estelle, how do you call Berührungsängste in English? Sort of and maybe you will need to cut this later on, but sort of the fear that they say, I've always been doing it this way, now comes all the women effort, and I quite frankly don't know how to approach this. I would love them to say, I feel confident, it's not that difficult, it is having an inclusive conversation, and this is how I'm going to do all my client meetings going forward, not just because there is a lady in the room. That would be my number one big goal. My number two big goal is to drive and inspire further innovation in the gender smart investment space. I believe that investing with a gender smart lens, so everything that has to do around assessing companies, embedding sort of gender inclusion criteria into an investment approach, can have a massive pivotal impact on gender equality. The moment capital starts to flow, it's like with sustainability 10 years ago, right? The moment capital starts to flow, the moment share prices get impacted, I think this can be an enormous opportunity for all the women on the planet. And finally, I would love that in the next 2 years, we really increase the financial confidence of 1 million women, provable on paper.
I like the phrase gender smart, particularly when it comes to innovation. Olga, just to ask another personal question, knowing all that you do now, what would you tell your younger self, or perhaps younger women out there starting off in their careers?
To be bolder, and to be bolder faster.
Okay.
There, and just do it. I think personally, I got too much time stuck in thinking about whether it was the right thing or the wrong thing. Just go and do it, and manage your money well along the way.